Give me the worst book you've read. Really? Hello guys and welcome to I Love Reading, a channel about interesting book-related subreddit topics. If you love our content, please press the like button, leave a comment and lastly, if you're new here, subscribe to our channel. Now let's get started. Looking for those terrible gems that you hated so much that you still read the entire thing just to have the satisfaction of knowing you never had to touch or think about the book ever again. It could be a read from high school, college, or a terrible life decision. I've always liked picking things apart and making fun of bad writing, so I figured it'd be fun to see what books make people upset. My worst book was probably Juan de Pareja, which I disliked so much as a 10-year-old, I still vividly remember scenes and dialogue from its pages. Once, a friend gave me the novelization of Snakes on a Plane for my day. I only mention this for context for how bad Empire by Orson Scott Card was. Oh my god, Empire was terrible. Almost 400 pages of paranoid conspiracy theories, juvenile politics, and military wank. I regret reading every word of that book. For me, Invasive Procedures beats out Empire. That is hands down the stupidest book I've finished. I regret knowing it exists. The Homecoming Saga ties for that spot as well. 50 Shades of Grey. Read it in 2013 after I kept hearing about it. Sometimes I can't help myself and hate read terrible popular books. Oh my, yes. Completely awful. I picked up the first novel at the airport after seeing a sketch about it on SNL, not knowing another single thing about it. I read it on the plane, regretting every chapter. I got into a fairly heated discussion with my coworkers when the first movie came out and somehow found myself hate reading the other two books to prove some stupid point. The only positive thing I can say is that after trudging through them, anything else reads like Shakespeare in comparison. I did the same thing with the Twilight series. They were so popular and everyone was talking about them, so I, though what the heck. Hated the first one. Hated all of them. The writing is atrocious. Someone told me that 50 Shades started out as Twilight fanfic and ended up hate reading that as well. Couldn't bring myself to read the other two. May I recommend reading Jenny Trout's Jealous Haters book club? She basically read all 50 Shades the books and wrote a recap for each chapter where she goes into detail about how bad the writing is and how problematic the themes are. Her recaps plus a glass of wine make for a good time. My answer to this will always be The Scarlet Letter. That book made me think I was bad at reading. Oh man, I'm a huge reader, like hundreds of books a year when I was younger, but this was the first one I ever had to use SparkNotes for in school. Truly awful. I don't think I've rolled my eyes more during a book than A Discovery of Witches. It's just that bad, and I couldn't finish it. Agreed. I wanted to like this book series. I tried and kept going a lot further than I should have partway through book 2. It's just not good. Most of the conflict seems like it could be resolved if people just told the main character what's going on, or if she asked questions. It's not a mystery if someone close to the protagonist has some of the answers and will reveal them if asked. The books spend a lot of time focused on vampire family relations and not the underlying mystery that's supposed to drive the series. And some of the character descriptions make me cringe. I don't care what everyone smells like. That tells me nothing of their character. There's just so much wasted writing in the book. Do we need to know how many pairs of leggings the main character packed for a trip? I think not. I feel like the author doesn't value my time and doesn't understand what's interesting about her world concept. It's such a waste of a creative underlying idea. I'm not sure of the title, but Macaulay Culkin wrote a book years ago, and I still get angry when I think about it. It was so bad, I wrote the publisher asking if they only published it because he was famous. Also, House of Leaves. It goes on a lot of respected lists, but I just can't read it or anything by the author. This might be controversial, but what the hell? American Sniper. Poorly written, pointless, racist drivel written by a cringe-worthy D-bag. I had a professor who spent the entire time we were supposed to be discussing the Curran in my honors class, instead talking about how American Sniper was accurate and in fact not propaganda for the American government. I was pissed because we never actually had a realistic discussion about the one text that semester I was excited to read and spent the next weekend hate watching American Sniper so I could bring up a draft of points next class. If my professor went off topic to talk about American Sniper as a way to avoid actually facilitating proper class discussion, I'd quote scenes from the movie and redirect the class to the relevant quote I wanted to discuss from the book we were supposed to be talking about. Honestly surprised the professor liked me. I can't recall the name of it, but this guy from my town self-published a book a while back, and one of my friends won a free copy. She was pretty put off by it, and I asked to look at it, and it was absolutely horrible. Tons of spelling mistakes, but the real glaring part was the story. The main character was named after him and described just like him, and the character ended up falling in love with a 13 or 14-year-old and getting her pregnant. It threw up some huge red flags that this guy was messed up. The whole thing was like a worse 50 Shades book without much of a plot. I think he also got all his friends to go and give him 5-star reviews on a few sites too, and that just annoyed me even more. I hated Yes Please by Amy Poehler. It was just so boring and disjointed and just read like a bunch of random stories haphazardly smashed together. And all the while girl power was constantly being smashed over your head. The Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield. What utter dreck. I was reading it for a book club I was in, so felt obligated to finish it. My poor husband had to live through my frequent outbursts of "oh my god, listen to this," as I read some of the most unbearable passages out loud to him. This was about 20 years ago. Worst book ever. Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad in college. Literally have friends who swore by this book, said it was the best book they read in high school, and I just do not get it. I read Conrad as fun SAT prep. Did I learn a lot of new vocabulary? Sure. Did I appreciate another book about Europeans conquering a continent rich with cultures and calling the people savages for different values and traditions? Nah. Regardless of what the point behind Conrad's storytelling was, would have preferred reading a book about the colonization of Africa that wasn't another Europeans talking about being Europeans' perspective. Twilight series, especially. Breaking Dawn. It reads like a crummy fan fiction of the series. I couldn't get past the first couple pages without quitting. A middle-proof armored Mercedes Guardian and an American Express black card in Bella's wallet? It's more than just the sleazy werewolves and codependent vampires that make this story a messy fantasy. A Separate Piece by John Knowles. I found it to be rather boring and annoying. When I first read A Separate Piece I hated it, but something about it stuck in my head for years, and I had to go back and look at it again to realize that there was some truly phenomenal writing hiding behind the drab story, and then after that I realized the story isn't drab at all, and pretty quickly it turned from one of my least favorite books into one that I really love. Pamela by Samuel Richardson. I hated it so much I wanted to invent a time machine just to go back and punch Richardson in the throat. Literature is my field of study, and I actually have a lot of patience for enjoy old texts. But my god, this was bad. 400 pages of the most absurd, airheaded, unrealistic protagonist I've ever read. She makes Bella Swan seem evolved and intelligent, who spends 2/3 of the book trying to escape a man who keeps threatening to rape her. She's told it's better to die than lose her virtue, so she literally jumps out a window. Then all of a sudden her heart is changed, and she fucking agrees to marry this raging asshole pervert. Both of them rationalize his behavior and just. Ugh. It's been a year and I'm still mad about it. The writing was all tell and no show, and it stopped to recap in depth its own plot every 100 pages. Do not fucking read this book, friends. If you're interested in 18th century Bildungsroman novels about young women, completely bypass Richardson and read Fanny Burney instead. She's underrated and a complete delight. Sunshine by Robin McKinley. It could have been about 75 pages long instead of 400. It's 90% repetitive digressions. And I mean repetitive. The main character forgot that she was trained in magic. You will hate her. This young adult monstrosity called Princesses of Iowa. It was one of the free ebook offerings through the library when I was high school aged, and it was thoroughly unenjoyable. The protagonist was an easy-to-hate mean girl, the premise was pretty poor, and it didn't pay off into anything. It was a hate read, for sure. Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance was the most pretentious book I've ever tried to read. I got a third in and couldn't make it. And Consequences was another 50 Shades type of book, but the guy in it was an actual psycho. The girl I just wanted to strangle. If I could run any book characters over with my car, it would be them. There you have it, interesting comments by Reddit users on worst book they have ever read. Note: Books talked about in the video can be accessed through the link on the description below. Thank you for watching till the end. If you loved the video, don't forget to press the like button and also subscribe to I Love Reading. See you on the next video.